SLT Mobitel, the connection. SLT Mobitel, the connection.
ලෙන්ගතුකම වැඩි කරගන්න ලව්ජු රුපියල් 50ට අඩු කළා.
මාමේ එන්න අපිට එකක් බොමු.
Tonight, don't panic. Prime Minister tells port unions ECT sale was never on the cards as 99% of cabinet opposed to it. Time for a change. Justice Minister reveals appointment of committee to study amendments to Muslim laws. Watch your steps. Police respond to reports of home quarantine violations with promise of swift action from tomorrow. Zero tolerance. Government gazettes stricter restrictions on polythene and plastic from March 31st.
We don't believe that by publishing gazettes this will be resolved. If one is found guilty, the magistrate courts can punish them under the National Environment Act.
All this and much more coming up on this Sunday, the 31st of January 2021.
Buy a 2-litre Coke and get a glass free.
ඇල්කොහොල් අඩංගු hand sanitizer භාවිත කරන්න. ලෙඩ රෝග ඇති කරන විෂ බීජවලට එරෙහිව සටන් කරන්න. හඳුන්වා දීමේ මිල රුපියල් 350යි.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9. I am Shanella Fernando. Let's move on to our top story for tonight. With the threat of trade union action looming over the alleged part sale of the East Container Terminal to India's Adani Group, the government issued an extraordinary gazette last night declaring all operations of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority as an essential service, with trade unions promising to carry on with their agitation over the issue and demanding written assurances from the government. Unions are set to meet Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa tomorrow. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister told media personnel today that trade union action over the issue remains completely unnecessary as the consensus among 99% of cabinet members is that no such sale of the ECT should go ahead.
With trade unions up in arms over the Colombo Port's East Container Terminal deal with India's Adani Group, the risk of protracted strike action has been a matter of public concern. With that, an extraordinary gazette notification was issued last night by Secretary to the President, Dr. P.B. Jayasundara, declaring the operations of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority an essential service. The gazette notification was issued on the instructions of President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, pursuant to Section 2 of the Essential Public Services Act No. 61 of 1979. Accordingly, all services, work or labour of any description necessary or required to be done by or in connection with the Sri Lanka Ports Authority, established by Section 3 of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority Act No. 51 of 1979, will be considered an essential service. Following this, trade union representatives expressed their thoughts on the move today.
සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අත්‍යවශ්‍ය සේවාවක් ගැසට් කරන්න පුළුවන් මාසයක් විතරයි. මාසෙන් මාසේ නැවත අලුත් කිරීමක් තමයි සිදුනේ. ඒ නිසා මොන බලපෑම තිබුණත් මොන රතු නිවේදන දැම්මත් අපේ වෘත්ති අරගලේ අපි නවත්තන්නේ නැහැ. අකුරට වැඩ කිරීම අවසන් කරලා සාමාන්‍ය පරිදි රාජකාරිය දෙන්න කියලා බලපෑම් වැඩි. නමුත් අපි මොන බලපෑම ආවත් පොරොන්දු පරිදි අපට ලිඛිතව ලබා දීම අවශ්‍යයි. 100% නැගෙන්න පර්යන්තය ශ්‍රී ලංකා වරාධිකාරියට ලබා දෙනවා කියන එක හෙට දිනේ ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමාගේ මූලිකත්වයෙන් සාකච්ඡාවක් පැවැත්වෙනවා.
Meanwhile, responding to opposition comments on the issue, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa today stated that he saw no reason for trade union action as 99% of the government's cabinet ministers remain opposed to the deal.
අත්වසම විපක්ෂයට චෝදනා කරන්න දෙයක් නෑ. අපි කාටවත් දෙන්නෙත් නෑ. විකුණන්නවත් නෑ. බදු දෙන්නවත් නෑ. ඒක අපේ පාලනය යටතේ තියෙනවා. මම හිතන්නේ වෘත්ති සමිතිත් ඒක දන්නවා. අපි බොහොම පැහැදිලිව වෘත්ති සමිතිය වලටත් කියන්නේ අපි කිසි විටක ඒ පිළිබඳව සාකච්ඡාවක්වත් කරලා නෑ. එහෙම දෙනවද කියලා. ඉතින් ඉතින් ඒක ගැටලුවක් ඇති වෙන්නේ නෑ. වැඩ වර්ජන කරන්න දෙයක් නෑ. මට ඇවිල්ලා කිව්වනම් මම ඇත්තට පැහැදිලි කරලා දෙනවා. මොකද කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ ඉන්න වැඩි දෙනාගේ මම හිතන්නේ 99ක් ඉන්නේ විකුණන්න ඕන නෑ කියන පදනම. ජනාධිපතිතුමාත් කොහොම එහෙම ඒ මතෙන් හැර පිට මේ දේ දේපල විකුණන්න අපේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය නෙවෙයිනේ. ඒක එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය. ඒ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ ප්‍රතිපත්තිය ඉදිරියට ගෙන යන්න නෙවෙයි අපිට බලය දීලා තියෙන්නේ.
Pay just 500,000 rupees to reserve your unit today. Mulberry Residence.
The production and sale of several polythene and plastic material are to be banned from the 31st of March in a bid to tackle the ever-increasing problem of plastic and polythene waste in Sri Lanka. The new regulations will now include a ban on PET and PVC material for packing agrochemicals as well. Following the release of the Gazette notification detailing the ban, Secretary to the Ministry of Environment Dr. Anil Jasingh has stated that publishing gazettes alone are not sufficient. Instead, stakeholder involvement in coming up with mutually satisfactory solutions are vital in combating such threats to the environment.
The dangers posed by polythene and polythene-based products have been a widely discussed topic in the public sphere over their long-term impact on the environment. Several measures such as banning the manufacture of polythene products or less than 20 microns thickness, as well as polythene food wrappers from the 1st of September 2017 were put in place in the recent past to minimize their environmental impact. Further, the Cabinet of Ministers granted approval in October last year to ban polythene terephthalate or polyvinyl chloride material for packaging agrochemicals as well. With that, an extraordinary gazette banning PET or PVC in packaging agrochemicals was issued by the Ministry of Environment on the 21st of January and will come into effect from the 31st of March. In addition, the production and sale of several other plastic items will also be banned from the 31st of March as well. This will include sachets with a net volume less than or equal to 20 milliliters or a net weight of 20 grams. However, sachets used for packaging food and medicines will not be affected by this directive. Further, all inflatable toys excluding balloons, balls, water floats, pool toys and water sports gear will also fall under the banned item list with effect from the 31st of March. What's more, the production and sale of plastic stem cotton buds will also be prohibited in Sri Lanka from the same date. However, plastic cotton buds for medical or clinical use will be permitted. In the meantime, Secretary to the Ministry of Environment Dr. Anil Jasingh says that any offenders of the new regulations according to these gazettes will be prosecuted under the National Environment Act.
We don't believe that by publishing gazettes this will be resolved, but we have to deal with all stakeholders who are involved in the plastic manufacturing as well as the marketing, distribution chains of these plastic commodities, and then for example the bottlers and also those who manufacture other kind of fruit juice and other drinks. So the Environment Ministry have been engaging with these stakeholders during last couple of months thoroughly, so that in about 1 month we would be able to come out with certain good solutions where there would be kind of a symbiotic relationship between these stakeholders and between us, so that the society would be engaged in reducing use of plastics as well as augmenting recycling of plastics and polythene. If one is found guilty of committing offences under these gazettes, the magistrate courts can punish them under the National Environment Act Clause 31. It could be rupees 10,000 penalty and or 2-year imprisonment. The courts can decide on either one punishment or both together. So in the meantime, we are revising the National Environment Act at the moment, and where we are going to increase the penalty fees in time to come.
Minister of Justice Ali Sabri revealed that a committee has been appointed by him to study amendments to Muslim laws in the country. The minister added that amendments to the country's matrimonial laws are being looked at as well. Speaking at a ceremony to launch the Tamil edition of the Law magazine at the Bar Association office in Colombo, the Justice Minister also pledged to look at improving productivity and use technology in order to systematically deal with the almost 750,000 pending cases in the country's legal system.
ලංකාවේ නඩු 2019 ඉවර වනකොට 7,42,000ක් තියෙනවා. මේකට මුහුණ දෙන එක වචනයකින් දෙයකින් කරන්නට බෑ. ප්‍රධාන වශයෙන් අධිකරණ පද්ධතියේ ධාරිතාව වැඩි කරන්නට, අධිකරණ ප්‍රමාණය වැඩි කරන්නට, තාක්ෂණය මේකට උපයෝගී කරගන්නට, නීතියේ විය යුතු වෙනස්කම් වහවහ වෙනස් කරන්නට. අපේ ශක්ති ප්‍රමාණයෙන් අපි මේ දේ පහුගිය කාලය තුල ඉක්මනින් කරගෙන යනවා. කමිටු 11ක් දාලා නීතිය සම්බන්ධයෙන් සංශෝධන කරගෙන යනවා. මේක ආප්පබානවා වගේ එක දවසින් කරන්නට බෑ මට ඕන දේවල්. මුස්ලිම් නීතිය සංශෝධනය කිරීම සඳහා මම වෙනම කමිටුවක් දාලා තියෙනවා. ඒකට අපිට අමතක වෙලා නැහැ. ඒක හා සමානවම ලංකාවේ සම්පූර්ණ මැට්‍රිමෝනියල් ලෝ එක සමාලෝචනය කිරීම සඳහා වෙනම කමිටුවක් දාලා තියෙනවා. මේවා අපි ක්‍රමානුකූලව මේ දේවල් කරගෙන යන්නේ තා ඉක්මනින් මේ දේවල් වෙනස් කරගන්න. මොකද මේක කළ යුතුයි. මම එක උසාවි පද්ධතියක් තියෙන තැනක උසාවි 3ක් හදන්න උත්සාහ කරනකොට චාල බාධාවක් එනවා අපිට උසාවි 3කට දුවන්න බෑ කියලා. එතන මහ ජනතාව නෙවෙයි ඉදිරියට පැමිණලා තියෙන්නේ තමුන්ට හැම නඩුවම එකතැන ඉන්න ඕනේ කියන. ඒක වැරදි. එතනින් එහාට යන්නට. මේ සම්පූර්ණ සිස්ටම් එක තියෙන්නේ රට වෙනුවෙන් මහ ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන්.
A 3-member commission has been appointed by the President to study the recommendations of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry that probed acts of political victimization. The commission, which is comprised of Supreme Court Justices Dhammika Priyantha Samarakone and Khema Kumudini Vikramasinghe, along with Appeals Court Judge Ratnapriya Gurusinghe, will be expected to prepare an interim report within 3 months.
A special commission has been appointed by the President to implement the recommendations of the Presidential Commission of Inquiry appointed to probe incidents of political victimization. The 3-member commission will be chaired by Supreme Court Judge Dhammika Priyantha Samarakone and will consist of Supreme Court Judge Khema Kumudini Vikramasinghe and Appeals Court Judge Ratnapriya Gurusinghe as well. The commission has been given a time frame of 3 months to prepare an interim report after conducting investigations and imposing the necessary conclusions and recommendations. The new commission will work on the recommendations of the commission appointed by the President in January last year that heard evidence from victims of alleged political victimization during the 2015 to 2019 period. The commission at the time probed alleged politically influenced investigations carried out by the commission to investigate allegations of bribery or corruption, the Financial Crimes Investigation Division, the Criminal Investigation Department, and the Special Investigation Unit of the Police. The Commission's final 2,043-page report, following investigations into 1,971 complaints, was handed over to the President on December 8 last year.
More news on the other side of this break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. In more news, following reports of members of the public in home quarantine flouting quarantine regulations by leaving their homes and endangering public safety, Police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana announced that a special operation is to be launched tomorrow to nab all violators. DIG Rohana assured that the operation will deliver swift justice to those who are found to be ignoring public safety by doing so, and added that all violators will be produced in court once their quarantine periods end. Meanwhile, all zoos island-wide that were closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic will reopen from tomorrow.
According to the epidemiology unit, the country recorded 848 cases yesterday, making it the third consecutive day where cases over 800 have been reported. Among yesterday's cases, the Colombo, Gampaha and Kurunegala districts reported the highest cases with 157, 136 and 108 respectively. In addition, the districts of Kalutara and Kandy confirmed 82 cases each, while 54 cases were confirmed from Gaul, 38 from Kegol, 34 from Matale, 29 from Puttalam and 28 from Badulla. The remaining 100 infections were reported across 10 other districts. Meanwhile, a total of 837 new coronavirus cases have been reported so far today. In the meantime, Sri Lanka's death toll rose by 8 yesterday, taking the country's total tally to 313. This brings the country's second wave death toll to 300 since the first second wave case was reported on the 4th of October. Among the 8 new deaths reported yesterday, 5 of the deceased were identified as residents of Colombo. All 8 victims were reported to have died of an exacerbation of pre-existing health conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, and kidney infection, and other virus complications such as pneumonia, septicemia, and stroke. In other developments, police media spokesperson DIG Ajit Rohana says that an operation will commence in order to ensure those currently in self-quarantine in their homes adhere to the regulations.
විශේෂයෙන්ම හෙට දිනේ සිට විශේෂ මෙහෙයුමක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කිරීමට නියමිතව තිබෙනවා. නිරෝධායනයට ලක් කර ඇති අය තම නිවෙස්වල නිරන්තරයෙන් සිටින්නේද නිරෝධායන රීති ගරු කරන්නේද යනුවෙන් සොයා බැලීම් මෙහෙයුම මේ අවස්ථාව වන විට ලංකාවේ පවුල් 40000කට ආසන්න 1,22,000ක පමණ පිරිසක් නිරෝධායන ක්‍රියාවලිය සඳහා නිවෙස්වල එම පරිශ්‍රයන් තුළ යොමු කර තිබෙනවා. නමුත් සිවිල් ඇඳුමින් සැලසුණු පොලිස් නිලධාරීන් වාර්තා කරන ආකාරයට ඔවුන් තම නිවෙස්වලින් සමහරෙක් පිටව යන බවට වාර්තා වෙනවා. එය නිරෝධායන රීතීන් යටතේ වරදක් වෙනවා. නිරෝධායනය සඳහා නියෝග ලබා දී ඇති කෙනෙක් තමන්ගේ නිවසින් පිටතට යනවා නම් එවැනි අයට එම නිරෝධායන ක්‍රියාවලිය අවසන් කිරීමෙන් පසුව අධිකරණයේ නඩු පැවරීමට කටයුතු කරනු ලබනවා.
In another development, the Department of National Zoological Gardens announced today that all zoos in the country that were closed due to COVID-19 pandemic will reopen from tomorrow. Accordingly, the Dehiwala and Pinnavala Zoological Gardens will be opened on all 7 days of the week for both local and foreign tourists. However, the Pinnavala Elephant Orphanage will be open only on 3 days of the week for foreign tourists, while locals will be able to visit on the 4 remaining days. Further, the department also announced that all future visitors to the Ridhiyagama Safari Park will only be able to do so through advance bookings. Meanwhile, another 882 persons were discharged from hospitals and treatment centers today after successfully recovering from the coronavirus. This places the total number of recoveries at 57,159. The country's total number of active COVID-19 cases in the meantime currently stands at 6,658. In the meantime, head of the National Operations Centre for the Prevention of COVID-19, Army Commander General Shavindra Silva announced today that 3 areas will be brought out of isolation at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Accordingly, the Siyavatta in Narayanpeta Police Area, Upper St. Andrews Place, Lower St. Andrews Place, St. Andrews Road and Anuvavatta belonging to the Paliyagala Police Division will be relieved of their isolation status tomorrow.
The epidemiology unit announced today that a total of 32,539 people were vaccinated just yesterday alone, compared to slightly over 5,000 on Friday, which was the first day of the inoculation program. Meanwhile, health officials reiterated that the vaccine is perfectly safe, with only the usually expected side effects of any vaccine being reported so far.
Following the commencement of Sri Lanka's inoculation program on Friday, the epidemiology unit announced that a total of 37,825 persons have been vaccinated so far. According to the epidemiology unit, 32,539 persons were vaccinated yesterday alone. As such, the vaccine developed by Oxford and AstraZeneca was administered to staff at the police hospital and police personnel station at the hospital today. Before the vaccination program began at the police hospital, the doctors made them aware of what should be expected after receiving the vaccine.
මේක දැනට වාර්තා වෙන අතුරු ආබාධ හැටියට එන්නේ කට්ටියකට උණ ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. අඟපත රුධාව ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. ඒක මේ ආයත සමහරලාට මේ අතේ වේදනාවක් අතුස්ස ගන්න බැරුව වෙලා තියෙනවා. එහෙම මොනවා හරි තියෙනවා නම් වැදගත්ම දේ තමයි ඔයගොල්ලෝ බෙඩ් රෙස්ට් කරන්න ඕනේ. සාමාන්‍යයෙන් දවස් දෙකක් විතර තියෙන්නේ. තුන්වෙනි කාරණේ තමයි ඇති වෙන්න දියර වර්ග පාවිච්චි කරන්න. හයිඩ්‍රේට් වෙන්න ඕනේ හොඳට. මතක තියාගන්න ඕනේ කාටවත් ඉන්ෂුරන්ස් එකක් හම්බ වෙන්නේ නැහැ මේක විදගත්ත කියලා මේ ලෙඩේ හැදෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා. නමුත් මේක විදගත්තට පස්සේ මරණයේ ඉඳගෙන මේ රෝගේ වැළඳීමේ තියෙන අවදානම සියල්ල අඩු වෙනවා.
නිරෝධායන වෙන කාලය ඇතුළත කවුරු හරි ඉන්නවනම් එයාට ගහන්නෙත් නැහැ. වැක්සින් එකක් මොනවා හරි අරගෙන තියෙනවා නම් සති දෙකක් ඇතුළත එයාට ගහන්නත් බෑ. COVID-19 රෝගේ හැදිලා සුව වෙලා මාසයක් ඇතුළත ඉන්න කෙනෙකුට ඒත් ගහන්න නැහැ.
Health authorities are also looking forward to vaccinating 660 more personnel at the police hospital in the days to come. Meanwhile, health authorities plan to vaccinate 169 staff at the police hospital in Kundasale, Kandy on the 2nd of February.
පොලිස් පතිතුමා ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම 10,000ක් මේ ඉන්නත් අපිට ලබා දෙන්නට කටයුතු යොදලා තියෙනවා. ඒකෙන් අද 829ක් පොලිස් රෝහලට පැමිණියා. අද තමයි ප්‍රථමයෙන්ම මේ පොලිස් රෝහලේදී විශේෂඥ වෛද්‍යවරුන් දෙදෙනෙක්ට මේ එන්නත ලබා දීලා මේ උතුම් කාර්ය පටන් ගත්තේ. පොලිසිය මහජනයා සමග ඉතාම කිට්ටුවෙන් සම්බන්ධයෙන් කටයුතු කරන අය. ඒකින්ද වුන් මේකට අවදානම් තත්ත්වයේ ඉන්නේ. ඒකින්ද පොලිසියට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ එන්නත ලබා දීම අනිවාර්යයි. පොලිසිය මගින් දැනටමත් ඉතා හොඳ කාර්යභාරයක් කරලා තියෙනවා. ආසාදිත වෙච්ච අයගෙන් මම හිතන්නේ 2000 ගානකින් දැනට සියල්ලක්ම සුව වෙලා දැනට 180 ගානක් පමණයි ඒ නිරෝධායන මධ්‍යස්ථානවල ඉන්නේ.
United National Party leader Ranil Wickremesinghe posed questions to the government over its long-term plans for its vaccination drive. The former Prime Minister requested the government to reveal its plans for securing sufficient vaccines for the country's population and whether the country has signed up for the WHO's COVAX facility. He added that any delays in securing vaccines will only serve to delay the country's economic recovery.
A meeting of the United National Party's youth political activists was held today at Devala Road, Nugegoda, under the patronage of party leader Ranil Wickramasinghe.
Pfizer, Moderna, AstraZeneca has been approved. Most probably Johnson's have come up. There's the Chinese vaccine. There's another Indian vaccine, Bharat Biotech. There's Sinovac. But there has been a delay in turning out of the vaccines. Now, our question is, other than what has been gifted to us by India and China, when are we getting the 3%? Have we entered the COVAX scheme? Are we getting 3% from that? When are we getting that? All that will cover about 1 million people. Then, when are we getting the 20%? And therefore, just as much as there's a delay in the rollout, also means there's a delay in the economic recovery for next year. And when will we be able to know when the remaining 80% is coming in? Have you signed the production agreement? Have you not signed the production agreement? Where are we to get from? If you haven't tell us, we will somehow find ways and means of getting it. But they should not be silent, because national security means the health security of the people. So while we are talking of COVID, we must have a virology research center in Sri Lanka. We haven't got. We have a handful of virologists. Okay, get them together. We should link up with the National Institute of Virology Research in Pune. Let's get their help. Then, if we have a shortage of people, they can help us, or we can ask WHO for some help at the beginning. We require a Center for Disease Control. Every country has it, and we must duplicate that at the regional standards. So these are issues that the government should take and pursue, instead of keeping everyone in the dark.
The second minor earth tremor to be reported from the area of Valapane in Badulla was recorded of a magnitude of 2 on the Richter scale. Today, Chairman of the Geological Survey and Mines Bureau Engineer Anura Walpola reassured the public that there is no danger posed by these minor earth tremors. He went on to say that a team of experts will meet on Wednesday to discuss their findings and identify the cause.
So this incident was happened today morning around 3 o'clock. We have 4 stations, Mahakanadara, Pallekalle, Hakman and Budangala also. That is according to the Richter scale, that is giving value 2. This indication was giving us something different between what was happened during last year in Digana area. This was happened in the Valapane area, close to Ridimaliyat. This is a consecutive second time within this month. The first incident was happened in the 22nd January. Anyhow, there is no any dangerous. So earlier one was 1.8 is the Richter scale. Anyway, suppose we discussed with the Secretary in Environmental Ministry. He already appointed the group. Early case was happened in Digana area. The same team will arrange for the investigation for this incident also. So most probably we will expecting get the reason and observe all these things during this week. Anyway, we have to observe all these things during this week, and we will get the correct idea. So how is happening in this incidents continuously like this? No, we are not expecting any more things. Anyhow, we have to get the observation from the expertise. So I'll call all of them and we'll gather it on Wednesday on this week, and we'll inform what is the reason in the interim report they have submitted the last one also.
Colombo's residents took to the streets today on their bicycles following the opening of a dedicated 20-kilometer cycling lane by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs. Cyclists of all ages were seen enjoying the freedom, safety and security of a hassle-free riding experience today, and which will continue every Sunday from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Cycling Sunday, an initiative launched by the Ministry of Sports and Youth Affairs with the aim of creating an eco-friendly lifestyle and a healthy generation, was worked off this evening. Dozens of avid cyclists of all ages turned up this evening to take advantage of the 20-kilometer dedicated cycling lane that begins from the Kimulavala Junction to the Colombo Racecourse.
I think this is a good way to invite people to promote cycling. This is good to avoid traffic jam and also good for health.
Accordingly, this lane will be open to cyclists from 4 p.m. until 7 p.m. every Sunday from today. With that, members of the public were requested to refrain from cycling at high speeds and littering along the route. What's more, officials have also made wearing of protective gear and the strict adherence to health and safety protocols mandatory as well. The media sponsorship for this initiative is provided by the Derana Media Network.
We'll return after the short commercial break. Stay tuned. In business news, market analysts expect a slight correction at the Colombo Bourse in the week ahead as company results are set to be released in the next 2 weeks, which could result in some selling pressure as well. Here's Dimantha Matthew with a detailed forecast for the coming week.
Looking at the upcoming week, we feel that there could be a bit of selling pressure continuing on to the upcoming week, especially because the margin providers and the credit providers are likely to slightly go on reducing the credit amounts and the margin amounts provided to the investors, mainly because the significant surge in the market. And with this and the results being released is likely to sort of give a break for the winning streak, and there could be a bit of profit taking and a correction in the market. However, we feel that there could be a bit of buying interest coming into the blue chip counters, specifically the banking sector, the food and beverage counters, and selected capital goods counters also are likely to generate a lot of buying interest, because compared to the most of the market counters, most of these blue chip counters seem to be undervalued.
In international news, scientists racing to save the northern white rhino from extinction have produced 2 more embryos, increasing the total number of viable embryos produced so far to 5. After harvesting egg cells in Kenya in December and fertilizing them with frozen sperm from deceased males, the biosecure team has successfully finished a year that has proven challenging.
The northern white rhino is on the brink of extinction. Once found in several countries in East and Central Africa, its numbers fell sharply due to heavy poaching. The last known living male died in Kenya's Ol Pajata Conservancy in 2018. The only surviving northern white rhinos now are mother and daughter, Najin and Fatu, both infertile, making them the world's most endangered mammal. But researchers and conservation organizations have joined forces to save the subspecies using pioneering artificial reproduction techniques. With the addition of 2 more embryos, a total of 5 embryos are now stored in liquid nitrogen, waiting to be transferred into a surrogate mother. Biorescue plans to use southern white rhinos, a subspecies which numbers some 18,000.
We are quite under time constraints because we want really a transfer of the social knowledge from the last 2 existing northern white rhinos to a calf. That means we have to produce a calf under the next 2-3 years. But right now we can't really work with the northern white rhino embryos because we haven't proven that we can produce a pregnancy. And therefore we're working with infertile southern white rhinos using this technology to helping them to have a calf and then get parallel the proof that the embryo transfer, the entire cascade is successful. If we can prove that, then we will go to Kenya and work with the northern white rhino embryos with the surrogate mothers there.
With that, we wrap up tonight's edition of First at 9. Thank you for joining. I'm Shanela Fernando. Have a good night.